there, how are you doing today?
I'm fine, thank
Thank you
you.
for joining us today. I'm Elias Rodriguez. Would you mind introducing yourself?
Howard Bolton,
Howard, thank you so much for being here today.
thank you.
We're going to do something a little fun, I hope. We're going to talk a little bit about your life and kind of get to know a little bit about where you came from, kind of some of the things that you accomplished and did. Would that sound okay?
Sounds good.
All right, let's start off easy. Where did you grow up?
I was born and raised in New Jersey,
Okay.
East Orange, New Jersey, to be specific. Yeah, and uh, s- moved to California when I was about 17. We drove to California. That was during the World War II,
Wow, you drove across country?
44. Yeah, that's
Wow.
correct. Yeah.
And what brought you to California?
My dad was a mailman, and a mailman in New Jersey doesn't like the winters.
That makes a lot of
The,
sense.
the slushy snow freezes and gets slippery and
Oh, yeah.
hard to walk on, and climbing steps that are frozen over and things. So and his parents lived in California, so
I see.
he came to visit and liked the place, so we moved out there. Yeah.
All the way across the country, all the way to
Right,
California.
yeah.
Wow, from New
And
Jersey.
I learned to drive during that time too,
No kidding.
because my dad liked to have. Well, his eyes bothered him, so after a while he would like relief. My mother didn't like to drive, so I was the oldest boy. So
Perfect.
at 17, I was the alternate driver.
That's awesome. How was that trip? Was it fun? Did you do it?
Yeah, it was fun. We stayed in motels, and of course, there was a speed limit those days, because of the war, and so I can't remember how many days it took, but it took about a week to get
Wow.
to California, and anyway, I learned to drive on that
Wonderful.
trip. I don't think I'd like to have my grandkids take the entire family, all of them together, and put their life in their hands. But that's what happened.
Wow. And so you were 17 around that time. You said
Yeah.
World War II, 1944.
Right.
Did
yeah.
you happen to join the service soon after that?
No, well, a couple of years later,
Okay.
but initially, actually, I was a high school dropout.
Okay.
I didn't have much, push at home to get an education, and being the depression, I didn't see the benefits of an education.
I
You might
see.
say, being either a mailman or a milkman delivering milk, or policeman or fireman, the only type of jobs you know about as a kid
Makes sense.
was what you see. But so I dropped out, and so when we got to California, I immediately got a job in a garage as a mechanic's helper and type of thing. And in fact, I
Wow.
got a job before my dad did.
No kidding.
But it was tough. The mechanic that ran the shop was pretty much of a stickler
Oh.
for things, and the guys were betting that I wouldn't last more than a day or so,
No kidding.
and but I ended up spending a couple of years there.
Wow.
But,
So you learned how to drive first,
yeah.
and then you learned how to work on the cars that you were doing.
Yeah, and learned
That's
how to
great.
work on cars. Then I was going to be drafted, and but I ended up joining the Air Force.
Oh, okay.
Well, it was at that time it was the Army Air Force,
Okay.
not the Air Force. So and it transitioned during my service. They transitioned they created the Air Force,
I see.
but I never got the blue uniform or anything, because
Wow.
the military is slow. I always had to, and I grew. I was promoted to sergeant, and which now in the Air Force is called specialist something or other.
I see.
But I never got that title. But anyway, during that time, I realized I needed an education, so I wanted to go back to school.
Oh, okay.
I was tired of in fact, that's probably why I joined the Air Force, because I was going to get the benefits of the
I
GI
see.
Bill, which was a great thing. It was a lot better than World War One. I think they gave them bonuses, but bonuses are spent in a weekend or two.
And now you actually can
And,
invest in
and
your.
now I got an education.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so, what did you study?
Ended up studying engineering,
Wow.
civil engineering. Went to, when I got out of the service, I went to Santa Monica College actually I went for 3 years because I had to make up
Oh, yeah.
high school,
The
high
year that-
school
Sure.
math, trigs, geometry, and all those
Oh
things.
my goodness. So
I
you
had a-
started engineering from the bottom, from math, trig,
Yeah.
the whole way back up. Oh my
Right,
goodness.
and so
Quite a bit of math.
After I graduated from there, well, there was a recruit. They have career days
Yeah.
at colleges like them, and a recruiter from the state of California came. Caltrans, turns out, was there, and I was looking for a summer job, and so I asked the recruiter about a summer job, and he said, "Your best bet is to take the exam for an engineering aide," is what it was called
okay.
at that time, junior engineering aide. But so I took the exam and passed it, and so I got the job, and I was planning to go, quit in the fall and go back to college, but turns out I hadn't. I was thinking of UCLA at one time, but their program at that time was not that extensive,
I see.
and none of the state colleges they were just they didn't even offer engineering. I don't think at that time.
Wow.
But so my only choice was USC, so I applied at USC, and I had GED tests and my junior college grade, so I was accepted,
Wow.
which was kind of amazing. Today, people are going to jail for trying to bribe their way into
That's
USC,
right.
and I got in as a high school dropout.
That speaks volumes. There you go. That's amazing.
Yeah, it was
You
pretty
gave it
good.
every effort, huh? And so, did you end
Yeah.
up working for the Caltrans?
Yes, I ended up spending my career at Caltrans.
Oh, really? And what did you do?
38 years. I started as an engineering aide, working on a survey party, mainly carrying the stakes and nails and stuff. And then I got into the office. Well, in the meantime, I got accepted to USC, and I only went one semester to USC full time, and the rest of the time I went at night school.
Wow. Okay. So you were working and going to school.
And so I worked my way, and that took probably 10 years to go to USC because you're only taking one course
Yeah. Wow.
a semester.
So it took you a while to
So it
finish that off.
Yeah, but in the meantime, I was climbing a little bit on the ladder, and I eventually when I got a degree, I eventually became a registered civil engineer with the state, and I ended up my career as a project engineer, the highest level below management. You're
Sure.
in charge of a project, and
And what kind of projects did you oversee?
yeah, well, it was Well, throughout my career, I initially in surveys, and eventually uh, just I'm happy to kind of think of my career.
Was there any
Yeah.
ones that we would recognize?
Yeah, I started in working in design. In fact, I worked on the 405 freeway here in Orange County.
405 freeway, really?
Yeah, on lines on a paper, 1952.
Wow, that's
And
awesome.
our plan was to build an 8-lane freeway. Of course, now it's up to, I think it's approaching 16 lanes
Yeah, it's
in
12 or
places,
16 lanes now.
But yeah, and eventually moved on. I was a young, just young student almost at that time, but later got promoted, and I worked on projects in Ventura County, built the Ojai Freeway,
Wow, that's
built
awesome.
a Santa Paula Freeway. Big
Caltrans,
project.
that makes sense. So
Yeah,
you worked a lot on
Caltrans, yeah,
freeways.
yeah. And and then of course when the freeway building era was winding down, I went into environmental studies and air quality, noise, and
Wow.
environmental reports, and that was.
So you spent your life on the road. It seemed like you learned how to drive at 17, you worked on cars, and then you worked on how to get cars from one place to the other.
That's about it.
It
Yeah,
seems
yeah.
like you were always drawn to
Transportation was my field.
And so
Yeah,
how about
when we-
with all those numbers and all that engineering, did you do anything on the side, like any hobbies that you really like to do?
Oh, yes. Well, I eventually got into fly fishing.
Oh, really?
Because my brother and I used to go to the Sierras and do a little, well, mainly salmon eggs and roll casts and so forth. But
Wow.
I eventually joined the Inglewood. At the time, they called it the Inglewood Fly Fishermen, and I joined them and went on trips, some backpack trips, and
Wow.
learned to tie my own flies and so forth.
So what was a good day fly fishing? What would you catch and you just thought, man, today was a good day?
Well, you used to like to go up to Lake Crowley on opening day because there was a lot of fish in there, and it was easy to catch. But yeah, a good day was on the streams. It's mainly catch and release because
Oh, okay.
eating fish wasn't necessarily my favorite
Oh,
food
really?
anyway, but
So you just enjoyed.
you do but you enjoy the fishing part of it. And,
Interesting.
yeah,
So did you have people that you would give fish away to when you caught more than you wanted to eat?
oh yeah, at some point I almost stopped even keeping them fish, any of them, but
Catch and release.
yeah, and then when I retired, my wife and I moved to Utah, and one of the grandsons, well, he was a step grandson, but he was interested, and I introduced him to it, and today he's a great fish.
Wow.
He's better than I ever was.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
You're passing on some of that knowledge.
Yeah.
Well,
So,
thank you.
yeah.
That sounds awesome. So you did some engineering and then on some fly fishing on the side. That sounds awesome.
Yeah, and of course during the career I played a little golf, of course, but not very well. But anyway,
But it was fun at least.
it was fun. Yeah.
Well, Howard, we're going to end it with a question that I'm asking everyone on the podcast. We're basically asking if you were to give some advice to the younger generations of today with the experience and things that you've lived through, what might be something you would tell them?
Well, I would tell them to get a good education to start with. And fortunately, I have 6 grandkids of my own, and 5 out of the 6 have bachelor's degrees. The 6th one is he's got junior college under his belt anyway, but so I'm proud of that.
Awesome.
And, yeah. So that's about it. And decide what interests you and go for it, you know.
That's wonderful. Can't
Yeah.
make it much simpler than that. I really like it. Thank you so much for your time today, Howard. I appreciate it.
Well, thank you.
Have a great
Appreciate
rest
it.
of your day. Thank you.
Thanks.